Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
I, 27, got married 3 years ago, and it was an arranged marriage. My mom chose my partner, 30, for me, and I was okay with it as it was a suitable match. I live in a small town with my mom and younger sister. My mom is a school teacher and has looked after us since our dad died in a car accident. She is a very hardworking, supportive, and loving mom. I was going to my university in the city nearby when she was told about my husband, who was her colleague's nephew. She thought it was a suitable match and told me to come back so we could decide. I went back and got to meet that guy who seemed sweet and kind. I told my mom that I had no objections and she could decide on my behalf. I got engaged soon and went back to complete my degree. I got married as soon as I was done with the degree. My husband is very sweet, kind, and considerate person, but is a bit too much inclined toward his family. His family comprises his parents and a younger sister. His parents were a bit harsh and controlling from the start. My mother-in-law expected me to wake up early in the morning and get breakfast ready for the whole family. I had to help her with cleaning, which was mostly done by me, and she would only order the tasks. She would say that it was my house now and I had to take care of it, as they were not going to stay there forever. I have never been a person who would object or take a stand against someone, so I sort of managed her dictatorship. My father-in-law, on the other hand, was of his own type. He would sit all day in the lounge with a newspaper and order to bring him something all the time. This routine would tire me out, but I thought that was how married life worked. Just to mention that my husband worked in another town and was not stable enough to take me with him, so I had to stay here until he could arrange a space. My sister-in-law, 25, was the worst of all. She was the spoiled little girl who would not let anyone live in peace and always wanted drama. She would just throw her clothes in my laundry baskets and would ask to wash them as I was already going to wash my own. She would never help with any house chores and watch TV all day long. And whenever I would say something to her, she would just make a fuss out of it. I was mentally exhausted in just a few months of marriage. It had been 8 months since we got married. When my husband switched to a better job and told me that he was soon going to take me with him, I was so relieved to know and was glad that horrid days of grind were at last going to end. But when my mother-in-law came to know about this, she said that if I shifted with him, I would only burden him with the extra expenses. She also told me that she wanted to marry off her daughter and would not let me move out until my sister-in-law got married. This was discussed with my husband, and he said that he would get his sister married soon and then would take me with him. My sister-in-law was already involved with someone, so we did not have to look for a match for her and married her off in the next 3 months. It was just then that I found out what I was expecting. My husband and I were all set to move to that city together, and when my mother-in-law acted sick and upset, she said that as she and her husband had grown old, they could not be left alone as they needed constant care. My husband told them that it was not my duty to serve them, and also that it was me who needed much care, so he was going to take me with him no matter what the case was. My mother-in-law acted sick and fainted, or let us say acted. Several times the day we were supposed to leave, my husband called a doctor, got her checked, and told her that everything was all right. My husband bought her medicine, and we left that day and moved here together. AITA? We were blessed with twins, and my mother-in-law and father-in-law came to see us. My sister-in-law also arrived and was so excited for her nephews. They did not leave my kids' side for a single time, and I knew that was just because they were overly happy and overjoyed. My twins used to be with my in-laws all the time. A few weeks passed, and no one was yet ready to leave. I also did not object, as it was their son's house, and I knew They had to leave eventually. A few more days passed, and my sister-in-law left as her husband kept on asking her to return. My mother-in-law and father-in-law stayed there and had no plan to go back. Then, one day, my mother-in-law told my husband that she was more comfortable here and did not want to leave. I was scared because I knew how it was to live with her in the same place. My husband told her that it was difficult for him to afford the whole family here, and as we also had kids now, the expenses had just doubled. My mother-in-law was not ready to listen and said that my husband could not imagine how lonely they felt back there. My husband tried his best to convince them, but my mother-in-law would start weeping. My mother-in-law called my sister-in-law and told her about everything and said that I was making my husband kick out his parents. My sister-in-law, the drama queen of all time, came back rushing to take a stand against me as I was the villain here. My sister-in-law told my husband that I was just tired of his family and could not stand them. My husband told her that I had to do nothing with all this, as he decided to send his parents back. My sister-in-law told him that if their parents went back, neither their parents would visit again, nor would she mind coming to us. My husband sort of got blackmailed and kept quiet, but I was not comfortable at all. My husband managed to arrange a small house with 2 bedrooms, and it would get very crowded with everyone being there. One day, my sister-in-law asked me to cook dinner for that day, as my mother-in-law was not feeling well. I told her that I was busy with my kids and she could cook if my mother-in-law was not feeling well. She burst out and told me that she was the one who took care of the kids while I just rested here and there. I lost my temper and told her to go back to her house and take care of them, as she was not needed here at all. She started crying and screaming and went to tell everything to my mother-in-law. Both the ladies came to my room and my mother-in-law yelled at me and asked me to apologize. I told them to leave my room, and it would be even better if they left my house and went to their own place where they belong. Everything was put forward to my husband, and I told everyone that I was not sorry at all, and they could just go back. My sister-in-law left the next day, but my mother-in-law is too stubborn. I am so done with my in-laws that I could literally kick them out of my life. My sister-in-law used to call several times in the day just to talk to the kids, who did not even speak yet. She would just not leave them alone. I was surprised that she could cause trouble even when she was miles away from us. No matter what the time was or what was going on in the house, my sister-in-law was all the time on the video call. I used to get very irritated, but what would thank God that at least she was not here because it could be worse. I bathed my babies and dressed them up when my mother-in-law yelled my name from the kitchen. I laid both the kids on the sofa side by side and went to hear what she had to say. She needed some help in the kitchen, so it took me some time to go back to the lounge when one of my kids fell from the sofa. I heard him crying and rushed back to the lounge. Thank God, as he was not hurt. But my mother-in-law could not leave the topic. She called me an ignorant and careless mom and told my husband that it was my carelessness that brought this day. The news was forwarded to my sister-in-law also, and she was not relaxing at all. As expected, she was back 2 days later. My mother-in-law told my husband that she had something important to talk about when he would return from the office. In the evening, my mother-in-law clearly told everyone that she wanted to hand over one of the twins to my sister-in-law, as she loved and cared for them far more than I did. I was shocked to hear that and told her that it was not possible at all, to which my mother-in-law replied that she was not talking to me, but her son. My sister-in-law played her part well and said that there was no doubt that she loved her nephew so much. I told them that no matter how much my kids were loved by their aunt and grandmother, I was their mom, and my love was matchless. My husband remained quiet and told them he would think about it. He tried to convince me that it was okay to give my sister-in-law one of the twins, as she would care a lot for him, and we would also be relieved from half of the expenses. I could not believe his words. I took my kids and came back to my mom's house. I have told my husband that I will only return when he will come back to his senses, and also when my in-laws will go back to their homes and leave us alone. And if that does not happen, I will be filing for a divorce. And TA, it was great to know at the end that you took a stand at last and did not let your in-laws tread all over you. They were so unbearable from the start and could not be handled. You had better take a stand from the very start and mark your boundaries. If you had put them in their place from the early days of marriage, they would not have done that much damage. You could have talked to your mom, as she was an educated woman. Also, why didn't you start working and earn your own money, as it was obvious that you would have to manage on your own if you had ever decided to stand against them? The whole family of OP's husband, including the husband, are the a-holes. That mother-in-law was just too bossy, and the father-in-law was equally absent. Sister-in-law behaved as a queen or somewhere, while the husband was as dumb as he could be. Why would you give your kid to your sibling thinking that it would cut off your expenses? I mean, how could he be so full of shit? OP was far braver than her husband, who was good for nothing and never dared to speak up for his own good.
Next story.
My girlfriend and her daughter's father broke up almost 2 years ago. Their daughter just turned 3. And she put in a petition for child support a little over a year ago, because when they broke up, she had to buy mostly all new things for their child. The father agreed to help, but ended up leaving my girlfriend to pay for almost everything alone. Support was finally settled, and he owes her $6,000 in back pay, and instead of paying it back in increments, he offered to pay it in full. My girlfriend was so excited. She said she was going to pay off credit cards that she fell back on because she struggled financially, as well as use the money to find an apartment and get clothes for herself, because she hasn't got new clothes since she had her daughter, because she couldn't afford it, except for things I bought her. Then said the rest will go in savings for her daughter. I told her that all of the money needs to go into savings for her daughter or used for things for their child, because that's her daughter's money, not hers. She gave me a pretty nasty glare and said, "No, this is my money. I'm being reimbursed for struggling alone since I put in the petition. I can spend the money however I please, and I'm not doing it recklessly, so why does it matter?" She was pretty upset and has been pretty short with me since. I think what she's doing is pretty asshole behavior. While she thinks I'm the a-hole for overstepping and not considering how much financial hardship she's going through. Now I'm wondering if I am the AH and that I'm being inconsiderate, or if I was right and she's being irresponsible. After reading all your comments, I now see where I am the AH. I made the mistake of looking at this back pay as new child support payments and not reimbursement for the hardships she's gone through. I will be giving my girlfriend a much-needed apology and won't budge into business that isn't mine. I need to realize that when she told me it wasn't a welcoming for my opinion, she just wanted an ear to express her excitement and gratefulness to. Thank you, everyone. YTA, she already paid for things her daughter needed, which is why she was struggling and in debt. Her being in debt doesn't help her child either. Yes, regular child support payments should be used for the child directly, but these are back payments for the times she had to cover everything. YTA had a great plan about paying off credit cards she used to support her daughter. Child support is to support the child now, not to save for when it's an adult. The new clothes for her are the only thing not directly benefiting her child, but she needs it as she has sacrificed getting what she needed while struggling to support her daughter herself. It sounds like she has a reasonable plan.
Next story.
My daughter, 18, female, is headed off to college soon. I am very proud of her for getting accepted to her second choice university, where she plans to go. It's in Seattle, which is only an 8-hour drive from home, which I feel comfortable about because I can visit her by car or plane easily, and it's not known to be dangerous there. For background info, she has a boyfriend whom my husband is especially fond of. I like him too. He's polite and respectful and clearly a very bright boy with high aspirations. My daughter, however, is head over heels for this boy. As a mother, it's especially hard for me to see how much she cries when their plans don't work out. My daughter is diagnosed with anxiety but refuses to take her medicine for it because she says she's afraid to gain weight. Last night, she showed me a presentation about why she should live with her boyfriend instead of in residence. I did residence at Brown and adored it. I am still friends with my roommates and maintain it is essential to the university experience. I told her the presentation was thorough. It was 17 verbose slides, but cute, and said I could not allow it. She argued she would be lonely, scattered, and disconsolate without someone familiar to make the transition to school easier. But I think she'll be able to focus better on school if she lives at school. Plus, I'm only okay with letting her move away from home if I can guarantee she'll be safe living on campus. I'm the one paying after all. Plus, it would be a new city completely alone with the boy. I am not sure what they do behind closed doors. I do not want to know. She is my baby girl. She also argued that she is not used to sharing a bathroom or having a small room. I admit she's a lucky girl who gets what she wants. She has an ensuite bathroom. I told her it would do her some good to share common spaces, and she told me she wouldn't want to do that unless there was really no other way. Ultimately, I see no problem with my daughter living with her boyfriend for her second year of university. I explained that if they can't stick it out for 1 year, it would not be the end of the world. However, she is not speaking to me, only very curt, okay, and wide-eyed stares until I leave her alone. AITA for explaining that despite my daughter's extensive slideshow, which included a thoughtful rationale for living with her boyfriend in college, I want her to live in residence, to make friends on campus, become familiar with the city first. She probably would be far better off getting some space. And they can date and not live together. Moving in with a significant other just to cope with anxiety is a horrible plan. It's a school year. She can survive, and you are funding her education and have every right to set her up to succeed and get the full experience. That said, it's not an a-hole move for her to ask. My daughter is very well researched and persuasive. I just get scared I have let her get away with too much, and she may make the wrong choice now. NTA, at my university, freshmen weren't even allowed to live off campus unless it was at their parents' house. It's really normal to expect students to live on campus their first year, exactly because they often miss out on a lot of important college life stuff if they don't. And even though her boyfriend may be great, they're young, and she needs to have a social network there beyond him. It's really difficult to have one if you're living off campus. My college girlfriend pulled a scam and lived in a house with friends her first semester of her freshman year, and she talked all the time about how much she regretted it. And ultimately, you're paying, so it's your call. If she wants to refuse your money and go live with him anyway, you can't and shouldn't stop her. She's an adult now, but if she wants you to foot the bill, she sucks it up and, oh no, lives in the dorm and has what will be, most likely, be a perfect great time.